Thank you all for your leadership. I really believe that leadership matters. The quality of leadership in relation to this issue in the years ahead is going to be absolutely critical. I was speaking to a business consultant the other day, and he said to me, you know, if you really want to achieve change, it's about leadership, leadership, leadership. And I do believe that's true. And this is an opportunity for me to thank you as business representatives, as leaders in your field, for the work that you do for Ireland Inc. every day of the week, for the job creation that you are key to, and for the resilience that you have shown in recent years when we've been through such a very difficult period. So I'm very pleased to be here in the presence of the key representatives of the business sector, the public sector, and the wider community to acknowledge the dedication of all of you to progressing the corporate social responsibility agenda in Ireland, and of course to award a number of businesses with the Business Working Responsibly mark. And let me just thank the organisation behind all of this for the work that they do, to Maurice and to Tina for their leadership. Let me take a few minutes before we get to the important business of the awards to make some comments on the significance of corporate social responsibility in Ireland today. I think it is fair to say that the financial crisis and the resulting economic crisis we have come through has served as a wake-up call to both business and government in recognising that placing CSR and corporate and responsible business practices at the core of what we do every day is not only good for business, but is essential to underpinning our current economic recovery and helping safeguard Ireland against future financial shocks. The contribution that companies here today make to build a more inclusive Ireland makes it a better place in which to do business and is fundamental to building a sustainable economy and society. And I would say very core to our democracy. I often speak as democracy is unfinished. It's always a work in progress from a whole variety of perspectives, many of which are reflected in those goals that we saw up there today. And it was a remarkable achievement at a world level to arrive at these sustainable development goals and get the kind of agreement that we saw. I would say that today's employees are looking to work for reputable and sustainable organisations that share their values and contribute to the betterment of the local community and to society as a whole. I was in France leading a trade mission last week, and some of the young entrepreneurs who were there with me were people who were actually focusing on the very issue which I'm sure now in Ireland faces many of you, and that's of attracting talent and retaining talent. And I think these points about corporate social responsibility are fairly central to that topic as well. I would say also that today's customers are more conscious than ever of the ethical record of companies, how they source their products, and the contribution, again, that they make to the local community, here or indeed elsewhere. As the National CSR Stakeholder Forum tagline says, CSR is good for business, good for all. Businesses who communicate openly and transparently about their practices, who tell their story and recognise their multiple impacts on society, they do foster a culture of trust with their people and with their customers. The government also has recognised the very key role that CSR can play in the promotion of growth, quality jobs and inclusiveness. And there is explicit recognition of this agenda by government through the National Plan on Corporate Social Responsibility. Very important to have that and to have the vision at government and with all our partners in relation to it. And it was launched by my colleague Richard Bruton in 2014. And that national plan on CSR sets out the general framework in which it operates in Ireland and outlines the key principles and objectives which underpin the government's approach. It also seeks to communicate a common understanding of it by outlining the 4 pillars on which CSR in Ireland is based: workplace, environment, marketplace and community. And a key part of the work that's been done in recent times was the establishment of the CSR Stakeholder Forum, which is made up of representatives from the business sector, relevant government departments, agencies and the wider community. And many of you here today are members of that forum. And I'd like to thank you for the contributions that you've made to the forum and the huge input, and also the work of Brendan Jennings, who's chaired the forum in the last 2 years. And there's been quite a number of initiatives taken by that forum, including a volunteer mentoring programme that I think will prove very valuable to small and medium enterprises, and various other work that has been done, including, of course, the dedicated website. So the question is, what is the next step in relation to the work that that forum has done, and in relation to those 4 pillars? What else do we need to do? And of course, what I would say to you this morning, and as Tina has already outlined so clearly, is the inclusion and being informed by the Sustainable Development Goals. Ireland did play a very important role, and indeed our ambassador to the UN, David Donoghue, was very key in the work behind the scenes in relation to the drafting of that document, along with colleagues from other countries. I was recently attending the UN General Assembly meeting on refugees and migrants, and the Obama Summit on refugees, and the Sustainable Development Goals and the agenda that has been outlined there is, of course, very key to those topics as well. And the whole international refugee situation that sees 200 million people on the move presently, 65 million vulnerable people, is, of course, one of the key challenges of our time, one of the key challenges, and impacting on all countries. No country being immune with that kind of movement. And of course we see the challenges very close to home in the Mediterranean, and the challenges that Germany, Sweden are dealing with in terms of the migration to their country. But also I'm very conscious when I go to the Justice and Home Affairs Ministers' meetings of the challenges for Italy and Greece as frontline states, where Italy at present is seeing 12,000 people arrive per week. Just think of it. Another statistic that very much stayed in my mind was the one that Sweden was setting up 100 new classrooms per week at the height of those numbers going into Sweden. So these are the world challenges that the Sustainable Development Goals seek to address, as well as all of the other ones that Tina mentioned there, and the eradication of poverty being very key. And I think we're not immune for having to deal with that issue in Ireland either. As Minister for Children, when I was visiting so many communities, and particularly looking at the issues in relation to our disadvantaged children in this country, there's no room for complacency, actually, in terms of the work that we need to do to make sure that every child in Ireland actually really does get equal opportunity from the beginning. We've made great progress, no question of that as a country, but we shouldn't close our eyes to the ongoing challenges that we really do need to meet if we are to give everybody equal opportunity. And by giving everyone equal opportunity, obviously that's better for society, it's better for business, it's better for our democracy. The 2030 agenda is universal, and all countries will need to implement it internally and in their external actions. And I think the challenge now is to ensure credible mechanisms for accountability, review and transparency. I think it's a bit like the gender issue, which I am going to speak about. You can't just simply have the ideal of where you want to get to. What you have to do is consistently monitor it and see what progress we're making. Last night I attended one of the very important meetings that have been held around the country in relation to equality for women in the arts community. Very disturbing when you look at the statistics there in Ireland in relation to the numbers of women directing, producing, getting funding for the arts, and quite a programme of work to be done there if we are to see gender equality and get the benefit of women, and indeed Irish women's creativity in that arena. So that's a challenging area, and the women who are working in it have a whole programme of action. But it is one of the goals, as Tina said, and it's one where, while we have made very good progress in many areas, and we're ranked 14th overall on the Sustainable Development Goals Index, we do have weaknesses which will in the future limit our capacity for sustainable economic growth and social cohesion. And gender equality, surprisingly in some ways, is one such weakness. You take the area of Parliament, where you have 22% of women. It's really disgraceful for a country like Ireland to still only have 22% representation of women in Dáil Éireann. And we really have to accelerate. We started with our quota this year of 30%, and that has made a difference from 15 to 22. But it's still a very, very low representation and quite a lot of exclusion there. And we do have to think about the ways we can support leadership in our business community, women's leadership in our business community. We need to examine why we have so few female entrepreneurs in this country. We have a very important programme being run by Enterprise Ireland now, and we're seeing very strong results. Once you put the focus on female entrepreneurship, we're seeing that it is actually making a difference, with an increase in those women being funded under the under Enterprise Ireland's entrepreneurship programme going from 8 to 22%. Again, when you have the focus and you monitor and you support and deal with the barriers, you begin to see the changes. So that's really important. So again, tremendous advances clearly in this country in relation to gender equality, quite a transformation. But again, the challenges that we now must meet if we are to accelerate the pace of change and indeed meet the goals in relation to sustainable development. I'd like to congratulate everybody here today who represent organisations who are clearly committed to the CSR agenda. And I would encourage you to continue your tremendous efforts to spread the CSR message through engagement with your members, your employees, your business networks, and the wider community. It is also very important, as I've already said, to recognise how your organisations support government in building the economic reputation of Ireland. We've made tremendous improvements, I think, and really dealt with the issue of reputation. But of course it's ongoing, it doesn't stop, and it can be damaged very easily. And that is something for us to be both in government, of course, in politics. How we do our politics matters to our economic reputation. How you do your business matters to our economic reputation. But I certainly think we're in a very good place at present in relation to that. But it is to make sure, again, that we sustain it and do nothing to damage it. I would like to say that those companies receiving the mark today and those on the journey towards receiving the mark join an elite group representing the best in class in corporate social responsibility. Put simply, best practice CSR is not something we do, it is something we are. And I'm very pleased to be joining you here this morning to honour those who serve as what I would say are outstanding examples of corporate social responsibility. Thank you all for the work that you do. And I thank you again for the invitation to be here with you this morning. I'm very honoured to be here with you all. Thank you very much indeed.